but we'll just go ahead and get started. So,
right, let's start.
Yeah, it's on. Okay, so hey everybody. At one time or another, some well-meaning person or not so well-meaning person has criticized you. Yeah, you know, if you happen to live on this planet. The question that we wanted to kind of throw around today is, what do you do with that information when they have so thoughtfully imparted to you, or better yet, on you, you know? And you know, one of the things I wanted to talk about is if you think about criticism, you know, in terms of how it works, it's a parent-child or one up, one down type relationship. And I thought I'd get James and Tony on here and you know, just like kind of kick this around and see if we can come up with some interesting solutions for you. So I'm Michael Harris.
I'm James Scott.
And I'm Tony Rose.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the opening statement for a moment. Who's your critic? And before the show, Tony said something really interesting, and I just got, Tony, I'm going to throw you into the deep end of the pool. Okay, it's like
that's fine, Michael.
Absolutely. Fine. I hope you brought your swim fins, because you asked a question: what happens when you're the critic?
What happens when I'm the critic? Yeah. I suppose it depends what we're criticizing, doesn't it, as well? And the person we're criticizing. And I mean, I've got a scenario at the moment where people around here, where I live, aren't clearing their litter up. And I'm critical of that because there's litter lying around. So I end up clearing the litter, doing my civic duty. But is that a criticism? Is that a tolerance? Is that an intolerance? Or is that me just doing my civic duties and thinking other people should be doing that? I don't know. Mm-hmm. What's your take on that, Michael? What would you think of that?
Well, you know, having 4 daughters, you know, I have found myself, you know, walking down that path, you know, because I'm just trying to help, right? And, yeah, you know, they're just looking at you going, what? Yeah, but I have had that experience where I have fallen down and I can't shut up. So I'm going to pull this up. I feel my face turning red. So James, who's your favorite critic and how do you deal with them?
Ooh, so does this have to be an active critic or someone from the past?
Oh no.
I would say that years ago.
Don't include me or Michael in this, obviously, James. Don't include me and Michael because obviously we're critics.
Oh well, yeah, it's you guys. It's completely Michael and you. But aside from that, you know, there was a time when after I retired from the Navy, I worked for the Marine Corps, and I was a community relations director for pretty much one of the largest Marine Corps commands on the East Coast of America, below the Pentagon, right? So, and I worked for my boss, my ultimate boss was a general, but then below him was, and I worked in the public affairs office. Long story short, I worked for an officer, a colonel, but who loved me, but he was usually not there. He was off, you know, doing something in DC or somewhere else in the world. And so my direct boss was another civilian like me. And when the public affairs officer was not there, the colonel, then this gentleman was my direct supervisor. And people would come into the office all the time and ask for me and ask for me and ask for me. And people thought that I was the public affairs officer, right? Mm-hmm. Because I would go out into the, and he was one of those people who was happy to sit in his dark little office and only deal with things if people came in the office or called him on the phone. And I was the community relations director. I was out all the time. So people saw me, and he hated that. And he said, and I would never misrepresent myself as, you know, as the boss or anything ever. But and I would explain, hey, no, he's the boss. You need to go talk to him. And they're like, well, can I talk to you? And he would overhear that, and he hated that. And he said, I talk to people too much. And he said, you make friends of everybody. And I'm like, that's my job, you know. So he was probably my favorite critic of all time, but my worst critic of all time.
This sounds like, you've seen the movie Good Morning Vietnam
Yes,
with that squirrely little lieutenant?
exactly.
That guy. Okay. Where it's like,
Exactly.
would it kill you people to salute me? No, like,
Right. It was exactly that type of personality, you know.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. I've had, you know, if you live on this planet, you've had critics, you know, and I've had a couple of gajillion of those. And, you know, as a result, I have a highly, highly developed sense of revenge. Before I learned how to do it.
Me too.
Sit around and boil and stew and lay. I used to tell people, you do not want me laying awake at night thinking of stuff to do to you, that kind of thing. And, you know, I don't recommend it. It's not good for you. And my personal favorite critic is supposed to be like one of your most, you know, one of your most fond memories. When I hear people talk about how awesome their grandma was, okay, and I look at them and go, huh, okay, my grandma, I only had one grandparent when I was a kid growing up. She was a mean girl. She was a mean, and like when I was when I was in 10th grade, I had to track back. I thought it was junior high, but it was when I was in 10th grade. You know, I had this school picture taken, you know, and I was like, well, hello. You know, I thought I was that and a bag of chips. And I brought my picture. She came to visit, and I brought my picture in so she could look at it. And she looks at it and looks up at me, and she hands it back to me. And she goes, that makes me want to slap you.
Wow.
And
wow.
like literally,
that's an ungrandmotherly reaction, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And it shocked me so much that like literally for years, I was never in a photograph. I was the guy taking pictures. And when I started in business, you know, you're supposed to have a headshot. Well, hello. You're supposed to smile. And I was like,
yeah.
And they'd say smile, and I'm like, I am smiling. I literally had to teach myself how to smile again, and that's kind of what I wanted to get to. We're going to get to your second story here in like 2 seconds. It's like you have to think about how powerful we're allowing these people to be. And I do want to show, and we have conspired, the three of us, to show you 3 different ways, little quickie things. They work, they're fast, they're easy, and they're so easy that even the 3 of us can do it. So James, what's your second story?
It would have to be my niece. You guys were talking about daughters, and you know, my niece. I love her to death. She's like a daughter to me. My wife and I do not have children, but we have her, and she was like her dad's a single dad, so I was, you know, she grew up with us, right? And we've lived here since she was about 10. And her, because she's now all through high school and everything, she's 22 now, as I think I said, but all through high school she was, you know, she would listen to what I say, but she would, you know, constantly push back. Well, now she's 22, and I may have mentioned this before on a call. I know I certainly mentioned it to you and to Tony, that she's the woke girl, you know. And so she says these things to me, and says that I have no, as a man, I don't have, you know, any opinions. Shouldn't, as an old white man, I should have no opinions. And I've had, and I've had,
you've been accused of mansplaining, haven't you?
No, I've been accused of just being a man, right? Which is okay.
Not by me, Michael. James.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I said not for me, James.
Yeah. It's just so funny. and I've had to step back from that and see if she has a point. And maybe sometimes she does definitely have a point, but she's my biggest critic sometimes when it comes to things like that in the modern world. And she's, I mean, don't get me wrong, she's given me a lot of things to think about, but I'm not a horrible person at all, you know, just because I'm a man, right? And but she's probably my harshest critic when it comes to just the way that I see the world, you know, but I see the value in that, you know, because she's helping me, you know, have a broader view of the world.
And you care about her, so she has an automatic in where a stranger you'd be going, I'm sorry, I don't speak English, and turn around and walk off.
Pretty much.
So Tony, you got another story that doesn't involve you?
I've got another story. I've got a few, but let's come up with this one. A few years ago, I volunteered for the Samaritans over here, which is I don't know if you know in America, but it's a volunteer group with people in crisis, and they reach out at a point in their lives when they need to talk to someone. But a friend of mine at that point, he was critical about me volunteering for this group. And I didn't, at the time, I didn't understand. I was a bit incandescent, being as I was miffed about it. But I think the thing is, what we've got to realize sometimes with the critics is where they're coming from, what they're thinking about, because he was coming from my point of view. He wasn't being critical about my abilities. It was much more about perhaps I could use the time more to earn more money or be more self-indulgent. But for me, that's what I wanted to do. So yeah, but I had to sort of see his mindset to see that it was a caring thing for me. So not all criticism is criticism just for the sake of it, is it? It was there was friendship and love in it, even though at the time I was. But yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so we've kind of like set the tone. Maybe you are listening to the video, you can kind of identify what some of these things are going on. Okay, so what do you do about it? So I'm gonna talk about one of my mutual friends and possible geniuses, a fellow by the name of James Tripp. And you guys all know him, and he is absolutely a wizard at what he does. If I get hit by a bus and you want to work with somebody, call James. Okay. And he came up with this method that is so simple. I'm going to stab my wife for messaging me during a video. Okay. So
don't stab her, Michael.
Perhaps not. All right. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to do this thing called I prefer, and it has 3 steps. Okay. And so for example, let's just do this, James. Just repeat after me. I would prefer that my former boss recognize that I'm friendly. And there's no rule in the universe that says that he must. And I have no right to expect him to do this. Okay, I know you guys were expecting thunder and lightning, but that literally is the pattern. I prefer. There's no law in the universe that says that it must be so, and I have no right to require them to do whatever. Tony, let's do yours real quick. And even though that you're the critical parent and you're trying to keep order in your household, one of the things that you do,
Michael, trying.
Yeah, so you could take the charge off of this by going, you know, I would prefer that my daughters do everything I tell them to do.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. I would prefer.
Yeah. Yeah. So go ahead and say that.
Everything.
Go ahead and do that. Say, I prefer.
Right, okay. I would prefer that my daughters do everything that I wanted them to do.
And there's no law in the universe that says that they will.
And there's no law in the universe that says that it will. And that's true.
That is true. And you have no right to expect them to be like you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I
So
have
when you're
no
doing
right-
that, how does that feel? Does that like go?
Yeah, it does resonate, doesn't it? Because you don't, there's
Yeah.
always that energy
Yeah.
that thinks people should comply to what you're thinking and feeling.
Right.
Because there's a sense of rightness. I think we all have this. We've all got our maps, haven't we? But the map is not the territory, is it? As we well know.
Right. So I'm going to tell my second story. Okay. We've talked about this before. I have birth defects, and I think I was dropped when I was a kid. Okay. I freaking hate sour cream. I think sour cream is the Antichrist. I think it is the bane of our existence. And and if you've ever been to dinner with me, you would already be going like this, because I tell the waitress, okay, I want whatever it is I'm ordering, and if that has sour cream on it, would you please keep that 500 meters from my food? And the people who are having dinner with me are like,
I did the same thing with pickles, Michael. I get
yeah, okay. And to test this pattern, I picked sour cream. And I did this, and now there's hardly any charge on it. So it's, I prefer not to eat sour cream. I just prefer not to eat sour cream. It's perfectly okay for other people to do that. There's no law in the universe that says that, they can't eat sour cream. And I really have no right to prohibit them from eating whatever it is that they want. And I had to do that pattern 2 or 3 times. But I've gotten to the point where if you want sour cream, not only will I order it, I'll pay for it and I'll feed it to you. Okay? I just don't have to eat it. And it was huge. It was absolutely a huge shift. So this pattern can not only be used for people who are being critical of you, but it can take the charge off of something that it seems like it has a lot of energy on it. But I mean, really, does it affect the rise and fall of the cost of rice in China? No, it does not. Okay. James, I would like you to do this other pattern. I would like you to do the pause button. All right. So Joe Bob or Mary Lou, they come in, they go, "Bumpy, bump, bump, and your hair is blowing back," and they're criticizing you. Okay. And it may or may not be appropriate to eat their lunch in public. So when you get home, you're still stewing about it a little bit, right? Okay. So you run this movie in your head. There you are, not bothering anyone, picking up flowers, petting the unicorns out in the yard. And this person walks up, and when their mouth opens, you press the pause button.
Yeah. Okay.
So you press the pause button, you pull out whatever it is that they're going to say, and you put in whatever would be more appropriate. And then you back it up, run it again. And when you hear their new words, if it feels good, keep it. If it doesn't feel good, pause it. Pull those words out and put in whatever words that you want. Because you guys know the same thing that I do. Every event that has ever happened in our life was a one-time event.
Sure.
And the way that we remember it is actually inaccurate. We have about 44 billion bits of information coming at us per second. And whatever it is that you remembered at that moment, it's true, but it's also not true. So the question that I have for you is, does it make you feel good? Because if it doesn't, you can change it.
Right.
Okay.
I think that's a very valuable an important point to make, is that people think that, well, 2 points that you made was that memories are by their very nature,
Mhm.
memories are incorrect. All
Mhm.
memories are incorrect.
Mhm.
But you're right that if you don't like the memory, change it,
Yeah.
because it's already incorrect anyway, right?
Wow.
And I like that. I ran that process through just a moment ago with something my niece had said at one
Mhm.
point, and I just paused it and kind of put something else in. Now I didn't change it completely. I put in like the valuable lesson and the way that I think she should have phrased it. And yeah, it's interesting. It takes the sting off of it and actually makes it more constructive
Mhm.
criticism than just out and out mean criticism.
The other thing that's real interesting is when, like if you think about somebody and they just like, called you on the carpet and read you the riot act and all that other stuff, while that's going on, what's happening with your breathing?
Oh,
Because
it's good.
I'd be
Yeah,
willing
that
to bet
changes.
you,
Yeah.
I'd be willing to bet you a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, if you prefer, Tommy, that when that happened, your breathing shut down. And replaying that scene in your head while concentrating on breathing changes it.
Hmm.
I mean, I know that you work with PTSD clients, James. I mean, that is one thing that you could, that like one of the simplest, easiest micro changes is getting people to pay attention to their breathing.
Yeah, because it's interesting. You said that the breathing shuts down. I've seen it go both directions. They either completely stop breathing, right? Like they tense up and they start, or they start to hyperventilate. They start to like very quickly and rapidly. It depends on what the memory is, or what they're embodying or remembering. But yeah, and that's a very, it's interesting because so many, or I should say so few people focus on breath work, and I think breath work is a very important element.
Yeah, conscious
Yeah,
slow
definitely.
breathing connects your logical thinking to the soma or to your physical body. Okay,
Right.
let's do one more thing. This is kind of crazy, but let's borrow from our buddy David Snyder for a moment. Okay, so Tony, I'm going to pick on you for a second. Okay.
Yep.
Think about a critical voice. Something from, like, it could be now, it could be from your childhood. And I'd like you to
Yeah.
point to where that voice seems like it's coming from.
Well, I'm going to go over
So like 45 degrees, is it
Yeah.
up or is it straight on?
there. Slightly up.
Slightly up. Because remember when we were kids and everybody was 10 feet tall? That makes perfect sense. So
Yeah.
all right, so what I want you to do is think about that voice again and where it's coming from, and I want you to reach out and grab it. Okay? And now I want you to put it on the mirror opposite side. Okay? All right?
Yeah.
What happens to the voice?
That feels differently. That does feel different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of times the voice will go dead silent, like voice canceling ears. The other thing that you can do is, what does the voice sound different?
I can't hear the voice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Boom.
Okay. So one of the things I wanted everybody to get is, like, spatially, we're not just wandering around on this planet. We are three-dimensional holograms, and our memories are stored holographically. So if they're on one side and they're unpleasant, you put it on the other side. I did this the other day with a client who was going, oh yeah, I got all this stuff to do, and I don't really want to do it. I'm like, great. I said, move it to the other side of the desk. And he stopped talking. And he's like, I really, really want to move that back. I'm like, so? It changed all, it reconfigured what we're doing.
Michael,
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? How we're spatially organized.
yeah,
We don't know we're doing it.
can
When
I,
you see the eye accessing, where people look,
Mhm,
you know, imagination, memories,
mhm.
their feelings. Yeah, it's really, really interesting.
yeah,
See this?
I have a quick anecdote about that. A few years ago, pre-COVID, I was at at like a fair, like I don't even know what it was, what it would be called, but like, I don't know, just like a trade show thing. And I was there advertising my company for doing hypnosis. And it was interesting because this girl came up and she said, well, what is, you know, what can you use hypnosis for? And I said, anything. And she said, well, can you show me how that would work? And I said, sure. Have you got something that you'd like to, you know, change? And she said, yeah, I can't sleep. And I said, what do you mean you can't? And this girl was 19 years old. And I said, what do you mean you can't sleep? She said, I can never turn my head off. And I said, well, what's in your head? She said, this voice. And anyway, it was a negative voice. And I asked her, whose voice was it? She said, mine. I said, interesting, you know? And I said, well, where is it? And she said, it's right here. And I said, okay, well, let's move it. And I moved it. She said it was, but for her, it was inside. It was not external. Right. And I said, I said, well, it's internal. I said, well, let's move it. Let's move it. And I moved it down. And long story short, as I was moving it through her body, it was getting quieter and quieter, because when she took it outside, it got louder. And I said, okay, well, let's put it back inside. And I took it down all the way down under her big toe. And I said, now, what happens if I said, you ever heard the expression putting your foot down? And she said, yeah. I said, well, put your foot down and say, you're not going to stand for this anymore. And I said, and by doing that, just push your big toe down on that voice. I said, what happened? She said, it went away.
Mhm.
And she said, and this girl said, for as long as she could, like 3 years old, she hasn't been able to turn that voice off. And it's just that quick, that quick, you know, and people, and it's just like people, this is the biggest thing I think that people misunderstand is you can do these things.
Mhm.
These, you know, you know, always people sometimes put the problem right in front of them, put that negative, you know, and with the spatial orientation of things, the spatial anchoring of things, just move them.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I can't do that. Yes, you can. Just move it and see what happens.
Exactly.
If it's worse, move it back. You know, and this is the magic of the stuff that we do in the Fast Freedom Formula. You know, it's just, it's amazing. This is people say, well, this is like magic. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, but it's magic that you can do for yourself.
Cool. All right. So, and one thing, if you're interested in, you know, watch the video a couple of times, try these techniques, see if they work for you. If they don't, or you need some help, message us. Well, we'll set up a 15-minute consultation and just like walk you through some stuff. If you find you want more, you can do more. But I mean, most of what this show is going to be about is to show you how easy it is to take charge of your life. And I just got a text message from one of you guys. The title of the show, Cherish Your Critics. We haven't talked about that at all. The shortest version that I can give you is we've given you 3 different ways that you can modify somebody's language. You can move it to a different place, or you can just flat out take all of the energy off of their words. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm curious, Michael. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I get all that. But what's these 3 techniques? What do you see as the purpose of all? What does this have to do with, you know, the 3 techniques that you taught us? What does this have to do with cherishing your critic? Because, you know, I was thinking about usually choking my critics, but what is this? You know,
and you know what? That is an option, but I won't come get you out of jail. The reason that I wanted to talk about this is that we all know it only take a minute for you to think of, you know, your laundry list of people who have intentionally or unintentionally offended you. Okay. And we can fix all that. We can fix all the stuff that we know about. But the reason that we need our critics, the reason that we need them is so they will come along and push your button. Okay. And once you've cleaned your stuff up, okay, and somebody pushes your button, you actually should be surprised. I'm always happy. I'm like, thank you. Thank you. I did not know that button was there. And then you go in, you know, when at an appropriate time, you go in, get out your little toolbox, disconnect that button. So the next time that they come by, because people don't change all that much, right? And they walk up and they go, and push your button, you go, sorry, that's disconnected. You're going to have to think of something new.
Right.
I like that.
Cool.
I like that, Michael. That's brilliant.
Exactly.
Yeah, excellent.
We actually kind of ran long today, but I'm cool with that. But you know, thank you guys for coming on and telling great stories and you know, doing what you do. James, you won't be here next week.
I will not. No, I'm on the road.
So Tony and I have already conspired, you know, to do something so fun.
We will be here, Michael, won't we?
You're gonna be like so jealous with gills and stuff like that.
You know, you guys always throw a party when I'm not around. What? That's starting to give me a complex.
I've got
I'm gonna have to do
streamers
some
and
work.
poppers plans, James.
Party, James's house. He's out of town. Okay.
Great. Hey,
Thanks,
my cats will be here. They'll unlock the door.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks everybody for watching this. And once again, if you need anything, if you just want to ask a few questions, or you want to reach out to Tony or James or myself, please feel free to do that in the comments. Join the Fast Freedom Formula Facebook group, or you can follow it on YouTube. But other than that, we'll see you guys later. And thanks for being on the show.